Let me tell you guys something. I was just talking to Paris, Mr. Bald Omni Man, about this. I was talking about Cursed about it. Nowadays, it's kind of popular again to highlight the relationship between strength and size, and getting stronger is kind of one of the foremost pathways through which we're going to get bigger. You could argue it's a chicken or the egg thing, but they kind of come part and parcel. So it becomes pretty reasonable to say what we used to say, which is, hey, if you can get to doing sets of 10 with the 30s on your alternating dumbbell curls, there's going to be a general size your bicep will reach, and there's going to be kind of a look to your arms. If we can get to the 40s with that same form, there's going to be kind of a look of a 40s guy. It's going to take a while to progress between those in terms of like true actual progress, not just newbie gains anymore, but we can get to the 50s. We're going to have like the 50s look to the arms, right? And that applies to a lot of lifts. But there are some lifts that the form is so variable from person to person that trying to have like form or strength standards that we can say you're going to look pretty big by the time you get to this size, it's going to get pretty hard with some lifts where the form is so unbelievably variable for that not to just be incoherent gibberish. A perfect example is hammer curls, right? I've seen some guys do with like, if you know what you're looking at, you'd see kind of where they might be going awry, but I've seen some guys do like visibly almost passable hammer curls with the 70s that I don't think are particularly big or strong, and they're kind of brachialis, brachioradialis, versus I've seen some guys who like pause at the top. 70s on hammer curls with like a full squeeze at the top is proper huge arm, really strong guy territory. The same thing with rows. I know some massive freak beasts that do their rows with this great mind muscle connection, really good control at 3 plates. And I know guys who are very skinny and small that can power row 3 plates and a deadlift like maybe 440, right? So like I would say rows, hammer curls, maybe a lateral raise would be a quintessential example of form being so variable that if you throw strength standards out there, inevitably someone's just gonna lie to himself and be like, "Look, I'm already at the 40s on the laterals. Look at that." And it's like, okay, you threw the entire thing out when you just changed your form to get there. Take the slower road there, and that's what makes it actually a okay proxy for where we're at with that muscle. Versus the counter example, something that's really simple. I was just talking to my buddy Henry about this. It's like, man, if you're getting a full range of motion and you're moving the adductor machine from Max is trying to throw me off in the background here. If you're moving the adductor machine from like a big stretch to a squeeze, there's not much to think about. You just need to do that A to B and increase your 10 rep max, and your adductors will grow and grow and grow. They're almost one of the simplest muscles to grow in that regard, because you could do no squatting, you could do nothing else. But if you hop on that adductor machine and you rise your 10 RM and the ROM is right, there's not that much room to fudge it. It's kind of the opposite of the lateral raise or the opposite of the hammer curl, where, man, there's a lot of room to like double the weight you're using through some tomfoolery. Let me know what you guys think, which ones are like kind of unfudgeable lifts that you found versus like highly fudgeable, where you see like guys who are at really different levels of strength, even in that muscle, at the same weight on that exercise, versus like the adductor machine don't lie. All right, what's going on, guys? It's late. I installed a light up here, so hopefully you could actually see me a little bit better. The garage is going to be a little bit less dimly lit. I think I'm going to drive to Home Depot and get another one for the other side of the gym, because it's nice for it to not be horribly dim in my workout area. Shockingly, after I spent 3 years working out in a poorly lit room, I discovered the fact that I could install lights. It's bedtime. I got to get inside, go to bed. Next week is my deload week, but I'm actually really excited. I'll show you. I'm doing something fun for the deload that keeps me excited for deloads. Should be a good bit of fun to put in this video. But I was going to tell you guys about, I'm working on a bit of a project right now. I've always got a bunch of different projects going on within my lifting. One of them is I want to get big forearms. I'm trying to get my grip stronger. I don't have the biggest hands, and there are guys with big forearms that doesn't necessarily translate to having the best grip. This grip is this very tendinous task, and training kind of reflects that, right? And sometimes you see climbers, they've got like middling, they don't have the hugest forearms, but insane grip strength. It is this very tendinous neural task. But if you're gonna have good grip with small hands, every guy I know who has good grip despite small hands has these hulking forearms. So we're gonna invest in that. It's good for holding weights overhead and keeping the wrists healthy. And on a more vain level, I was thinking about it. Bigger arms in general is cool, but sometimes I see a guy and he's got big biceps and really kind of meh forearms. And I usually immediately think, all right, that guy does some bodybuilding, but he's not that strong. And then I see a guy with big ass forearms and kind of meh biceps. And I'm like, yeah, that guy's probably pretty strong. And that's kind of brain broken me into being like, no, 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 that actually looks way cooler. The big forearms and mid biceps look is cool. I've really come around to that. So that's what we're going for, is the big old brachioradialis, big forearms, kind of shit biceps look. Because I think it looks more powerful in my head. So in addition to potentiating better grip strength, in addition to looking fucking sick, it also is very helpful for me to keep my wrists strong and healthy for my journey to put a lot of weight over my head. My wrists tend to be a bit of a limiting factor in training for that. So getting my wrists thicker has kind of been actually something that was like a big off-season agenda in general to kind of free up my overhead training economy a little bit. But I'm throwing the kitchen sink at it. I'm doing like heavy wrist curls off a bench with a dumbbell. That might be my favorite. I'm gonna make a video about those at some point. I'm doing the hammers. I'm doing the reverse grip curls. I'm doing the wrist roller, both forward and back, the wrist flexion, the wrist extension, wrist roller. I'm doing lots of interesting little pronation, little supination stuff. I'm just enjoying it because it's kind of something I've had in the back of my head that I'm like, okay, I do think that the me that's putting a ton of weight over my head is a lot thicker in the forearms. The me that's holding on to really heavy objects is a lot thicker in the forearms. So that's a big gap between me right now and me, the cool guy that does more weight. You know, sometimes I think I'm like, okay, my legs don't have to be that much bigger to do some of the things I want to do. That's not that different. My erectors don't need to be that much bigger to do some of the things I want to do. I think I got to be thicker in the forearms. I'm enjoying all the little just progressing and log booking all these little exercises. Oh, I love lifting weights. It's so cool. All right, so we're out in the gym, as you can see. One thing Alec had me doing that I really, really liked is on our deload weeks, there would often be like a self-limiting variation, like a heavily self-limiting variation, and we would test a heavy single. And kind of move on, do just feel good level existence work. But that way it's something, rather than just taking like, oh, take 60% for 3 sets of 5. Sure, that'll get you deloaded, but this is something to look forward to, something to keep that week, something you look forward to. Like I might do like a double overhand deadlift tomorrow up to maximum. And today what we're doing is in place of our primary overhead, we're working up to a maximum on overhead squat. I guess I've never done like a maximum overhead squat before, so I don't know what to expect at all here. I've done overhead squats as part of a complex with snatches. So I guess technically at some point I've done like 250 pounds, a little bit more than like 110 kilos for an overhead squat, but that's the most I've done. But today we're working up to maximum and I have absolutely no idea what to expect. So wish me luck. All right, we're jumping to 255, which I am guessing is a 5-pound PR. We'll see how this goes. Fish. Push. Okay, 275 pounds, 125 kilos in the books. We're going up to 295. That 275 did not feel very easy, but I've come in with the goal of 3 plates. Sounds a lot cooler than anything other than that. It'll be a couple of blocks of programming before I come around to doing this again, but it'll give me a baseline to beat the next time this is my deload workout. Max said the same thing. He's like, I don't think it'd be cool unless you get 3 plates. So we're gonna take reattempts if we need to, or bump some tunes. Does that fit with the deload? Maybe, but we're gonna try to get her done. All right, that's just about all I got for you this video. We're a little bit later in the week, cold subsiding. One thing I always notice when I get sick is that my work capacity tanks. While I'm sick, I can work out and I can hit good. The first half of the workout goes surprisingly well. The strength stays, and then I fall off a cliff. And then even when the cold is gone and I come back later that week, I can feel that my capacity's gone down. So we're easing back into it, increasing the workouts a little bit, and we're doing a little bit of extra zone 2 stuff just to make sure I can climb my work capacity back up to where it was, so we can hit it hard next week and make the deload have worked for me. But I figured I would end this video for a little word to the wise, a little tip from old Sam Wise. I was going to tell you guys, one of the most dangerous things for your progression is being like a smart, well-informed, articulate guy about, like, you know a lot about lifting, and you're operating from the bias of laziness. You have this lens of always looking to, like, what can I get away with not doing? If you know a lot and you understand about a lot of things, you're going to be able to come up with really, really good sounding arguments to get out of each thing individually. And always having that bias is going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and your capacity is going to come down. And eventually, even though each of these things had a great articulate argument, it's going to hurt your progress, right? Perfect example is like, oh, I don't have to follow a whole food diet. I can just, if it fits your macros, my prep. There's no argument against it, even though everybody successful has done that. And you guys know me. I can't help but talk about these things because I think they're interesting. I've never found the whole, if it fits your macros only, is like just as good. There's no science that says otherwise. I've never found that to be very compelling. We have this thing called like the food nutrient matrix, which is that there's plenty of coenzymes, cofactors, phytonutrients that come alongside food, polyphenols. There's these things that come alongside the food that change how they're utilized, that have these other health promoting effects, in addition to the fact that whole foods tend to promote more better gastric health, or less gastric distress, which definitely is going to affect your cosmetic look. I just like these things probably are multifactorial, and they add together enough to make a meaningful difference. I mean, if you're just talking to someone who's new to lifting, it's like, yeah, hit your macros and that'll get you good at generally maintaining your weight. And if you're good at generally controlling your weight, you can have generally good health outcomes. But when we're trying to maximize our performance outcomes, these micronutrients, these polyphenols, this little shit that comes with whole food sources probably adds up. Yeah, there's no study that says bodybuilders cosmetically look better if they don't, if they are missing this, this, and this. Yeah, there's no fucking study on that in general, but we're operating from this bias of doing less. I'll use my client, Billy. He's the head physical therapist, got a doctorate in physical therapy. And there's some guys with doctorates in physical therapy that I'm not that impressed by. Billy knows his shit. He's like deadlifted 675, guy's doctorate, very informed guy, but he operated from this position of working backwards from the desire to do less, and it really fucked him up. He made good arguments for he was following barbell medicine. It's like, there's no reason to do activation work before. There's no reason that we need to do this zone 2 work. And each of these things were always working backwards from this bias, and his reasons sounded fantastic. And there was no one around the gym that could really push back because they were so well articulated. He could cite some physiology, but he ended up being in this self-fulfilling prophecy. He had these backwards rationales where it's like, oh, well, I've got long limbs, so it's really hard for me to do squat volume. Well, you're also not doing your zone 2, so yes, it's going to be very hard for you to recover from doing your squat volume. And oh, my knees hurt. And it's like, well, maybe it would behoove you to do some investment, like 3-4 days a week, do your TKEs, do these little deposits in the knee health account, do what you know how to do, which is rehab yourself to be able to handle that squat volume in addition to bring up your work capacity. Because it became a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I keep saying that over and over, but that's kind of the theme of the lesson, right? Is your capacity will come down if you're always looking to do less, and then you're going to get pretty strong. It's going to be really hard to move forward. And that was the case with Billy. And he's like, oh, I don't need to do this accessory. There's no real reason for it. I don't need to do this variation. And it really comes back to bite you, despite every single argument you made being really good. And that's why you see a lot of the smart guys that are able to progress well in their training. You're like, hey, this guy's super, super smart, but he doesn't always seem to be the smartest with his training. Like, I always thought Stan Efferding, wicked smart guy, but he's not always the smartest with his training. And I think it's sometimes you need to operate from this, I want to do more gusto mindset, like channel your inner boogs a little bit rather than making it this. I just think that the cerebral thing, the science-based thing, the super analytical thing, it's got so much room for this minimalist mindset, which is really just laziness in disguise to creep in. And what can I get away with not doing? That we need to balance that. Yeah, sure, we need to have a smart approach if we want to get as strong as we can, but we need to balance that with some of this fucking gusto, man. It can be bad. So I figured I know a lot of the guys on YouTube are very well informed, but it's like sometimes you need to have the mindset of, well, I should sleep a little bit more, and I should nail my nutrition a little bit better so I can get away with more. Can I get away with more? Can I get away with more? And Eventually you'll overshoot it and you'll learn from that. But how about we bias towards doing more, not bias towards doing less? You got 3 kids, you got a brutal job. Your more is going to look different than some college kids' more, of course, but it's still within your framework of work you can handle. If you're someone who responds better to low volume, more is going to be a very relative statement. If you're someone who likes more high volume training routines, more is going to be different. Maybe more for you is your volume's already high. Fuck off with it doing even more. How about we dial up the RP? Like, let's see, try if we can raise the average RPE of that high volume routine and see how that responds, right? Let's operate from the mindset of trying to do more and trying to take good care of our body so it can handle more.